How's it going, guys? Welcome to the first video on whether the Suzuki SV650X or just the standard 650 is a good beginner bike. So we're going to discuss whether this is a good beginner bike, and when I say beginner bike I mean anyone can buy this bike, but whether it's user friendly. I've been riding bikes since I was 16, starting with a Piaggio Zip on a 50cc scooter, moving to 125s and then old kick-starting Honda CD 185s from the 70s. At the start of the year I passed the full test, and I decided to buy myself a Suzuki SV650X. And you can see one giant thing that has changed about the X, if you know anything about the bikes. And yes, the handlebars. So why did I pick the Suzuki? Well, I went through a load of options here. I'll cut to the chase of the long story short is it's a simple motorcycle. There's not really much to it. In terms of the only tech it's got for a 2020 bike, so it's fairly new, is ABS. That's it. You don't have any rider modes, you don't have anything extra that, you know, isn't pointless, but isn't what you need to be worried about with a first-time bike, in my opinion. Since I've passed the test as well, I've pretty much been on it every day. I've racked up around 1,200 miles so far on it, and I can say all 1,200 of those miles have been smooth sailing. So I'll throw some specs out for you. This bike has 75 horsepower. It is extremely smooth with a V-twin engine. It's got a 790mm seat, so it's actually a very low seat for most bikes. And is overall just a really great option for someone to have, especially if you are someone that likes the Japanese bikes, because I don't actually think this bike looks very Japanese. As far as I'm concerned with Suzuki, this bike looks, I dare not say Italian, but you wouldn't suspect it's Suzuki off the line. It definitely opens up well, as you can hear. There's no shortage in the short gears. It's a twerky little thing. It goes. But at no point do you ever feel unstable, unsafe, no nothing. It's so dead center. The balance on this bike is superb. But of course the glaring obvious question of should you buy the X? My opinion is no. So if you're not aware of the differences between the standard and the X, the first was the obvious handlebars. The second is this lovely cowl at the front, which I love the look of. It makes it look a slightly more cafe racer. That's the vibe I think they were going for. It hasn't really worked all that well for me. I don't think it does look like a cafe racer bike in any way, but I do like the cowl itself. And thirdly, I'm pretty sure the seat has more of an aggressive dip inside it because obviously it matched the clip-ons. Lovely little village around here. You can see as well, got a nice little turning circle. It's not difficult to turn, maneuver, U-turn, whatever you want to do. The glaring obvious question, why did I get rid of the clip-ons? Well, like most people, I love the look of a bike with clip-ons. I loved the difference between having a standard SV650, which is, I don't want to use the word it's boring, but it's pretty boring. It's a boring bike. This bike isn't anything sexy. It's really not. I think the color scheme I've got with the brown seat, with the complete black paint job, I think that makes it look a lot better. But as a go-to bike, it's a pretty box standard 650, can't go wrong motorcycle. And I used the clip-ons. I used them for probably a good 400 miles. And I think that was plenty of time to realize I don't like clip-ons, because I could ride the bike for a good hour, and after that hour, my wrist was killing me. And there's probably people out there that are used to proper sports bikes with a lot worse clip-ons than were on this bike. That like, get over it, you know, anything you want to say about how bad my wrists probably are, but it really did kill my wrists, and it just wasn't fun to ride after an hour. And if you're like me and you like riding a lot longer than an hour, it just wasn't the thing to do. And I preferred being more upright. You know, with the clip-ons, your hands are down here. They're pretty damn low with the straight bars, and these are still a bit further forward. My dad helped me put these on, and I say help me, he basically did the entire work for me while I took credit. And we've made kind of like an aggressive stance, flicked ends, straight bar system on this, which, oh my God, I can tell you, it turns a corner on a dime. It is so clean and quick. So if you are getting the X, I would just be aware that If you've not ridden with clip-ons before or a sportier position, you've been used to upright bikes, at your own risk, buy the bike, you know. With the standard version, you will not go wrong. It is a really nice machine to ride. And since I've changed the bars, wrist is absolutely gleaming. No problems with the wrist at all. And I'm not going to come on here and give you a full breakdown and review of how the bike is in full specs, because there are plenty of YouTubers that do that incredibly well. English biker Dan has a video on the SV650 with the clip-ons, so go check that out if you are after the clip-on version of this bike. Mine is more for how this bike feels over a longer period of time. I've had this bike since last November. I passed the test in January, so since January 1st, I've basically been riding this bike non-stop. And I can firmly tell you, it is a fantastic bike. This bike is going nowhere. When I buy my touring bike for next year, this isn't going anywhere. It's not going to be a swap deal. It's not going to be a sell deal. I'm adding to a collection. This bike is staying with me. You could easily tour England on this bike further if you really wanted. I think the wind damage on an A road you can take a punch, but that's nothing to do with the bike. You've got a little wind deflecting here, not much. It's more just because it's a naked bike. It's what you get with a naked bike. You can't say, oh, I bought a naked bike, there's too much wind. You're moaning at nothing. So if I was going touring on this bike or around England, I'd probably stick a little windshield on it just to bring the wind above my head, just to make it a bit easier for when you're not on those B roads. But other than that, this bike's perfect. It's got around a 14.5 litre tank. It's got a lovely fuel gauge on it. It can hold around 170 miles, the way I'm riding at the moment, and doing about 70 to the gallon, which again, not bad at all. It's around 12 to 14 pounds sterling to fill it up. And what I like most about this bike is just the way it feels. It never feels like you're riding a bike that, wet weight on this is 196 kilos. It's quite a heavy 650 in my opinion. Not counting the touring bikes, but it is a little pocket rocket. You twist that throttle and it just, it blips up real fast. I'll demonstrate here as we hit the national sign. I mean, there's a nice Mercedes there, but you're in third gear and you just want to give it a twist. It just goes. For a 650 in third gear, that's not bad at all. Doesn't pull you off, doesn't feel bad, just smooth. Engine sounds great. So like all reviews, you've got to come down to a couple negatives and what people should look out for. The first I would just say is the seat. The seat's a little bit hard. After about 90 minutes, not even 90 minutes, your arse is raw. It really is stiff. I mean, I rode it for about 3 hours with a break in between. The other day, came back and my coccyx was really sore for a couple of days. Didn't stop me jumping on. I mean, the love for riding a bike is never going to stop. You're climbing on the saddle, but if you could get a gel pack or maybe an aftermarket seat, I believe Corbin, they are very pricey, but if this is your one motorcycle you love and dear, it's worth paying for a proper seat for this thing, because the one that comes with it just, in my opinion, is a bit shit. And the second point I would say is kind of a negative, but kind of not. For me, it's not a negative, but for other people it might be, which is you'll probably outgrow it. And what I mean by that is, as a first bike, you'll be riding a 650 on your direct access, you'll be riding an MT-07, or you'll be riding a Suzuki SV650. So if you bought this as a first bike, you'll love it, and you'll feel freedom, and you'll really learn to ride a bike properly, where you can use so much of the bike and the ability of the bike. And by that I mean, if you bought a 1000cc motorcycle, you can only use a fraction of the power. If you buy this, you can use so much of the power. The bike never feels like it's going to give out on corners. It's so accurate, it's precise. And this, again, is without the clip-ons though. With the clip-ons, it still felt really good, just not quite as good for me. That's personal preference, so don't let that, slide you off. But when I say outgrow the bike, I mean, after 6 months of ownership, I was going, oh, what kind of bike should I get next? Insurance is a big key. They don't like you typically jumping up, to 1000cc if you've only been riding a year. They will ask you, have you ridden a bigger bike before? And if your answer is no, they might be hesitant to give you insurance at all. But the other week I rode my Mrs. Dad's Triumph Tiger 1200, and I was a little bit of monkey mustard in the back area for the first 2 minutes of going, this bike looks pretty big. But after a while of riding that 1200, and I say after a while, after literally 3 or 4 minutes of riding that 1200, it felt completely at home. It really felt like the bike isn't too big. It weighs 260 kilos, that bike. Has about 148 horsepower. So double this. Has an inline 4 engine, and it felt great. So instantly, I'm saying to myself, oh, you know, I would love a bigger bike. It felt really good to have a bigger bike. It felt more secure, it was a lot more windproof, and I can completely understand why people jump up to a high degree with a 1200cc motorcycle. For a touring bike, I'm looking at many bikes, and that can be a later video because I want to get your guys' opinions on a touring bike to buy. I've got a short list, but again, I want to hear some stories on it. So after 6 months of ownership, you might say, this bike's not big enough for me, which is fair enough. You might just sell it and buy another one. But if you're looking for a starter bike and you want it for 1 year and you think, okay, I'm going to have it for a year and I'm going to upgrade, or you want it for around town, this bike is so lovely to ride around town as well, because if you've noticed, it's extremely narrow. Whether you're lane splitting or whether you're just cruising around town at low RPM, you know, this thing just rolls around in second gear, no problem at all. So again, a negative, but do you know what? It's not really a negative. The final point I'll make on this bike is probably the biggest point for beginner riders, is the price point. These bikes are extremely reasonable. Now, as a first bike, if you bought a new bike, I think you're crazy. I think you should always buy a used bike. There are plenty out there. Some people are just giving bikes away, to be honest. There's plenty of websites, there's plenty of sponsored videos out there that you could buy a bike from, whether it's just Auto Trader, private selling, whatever you want to do. Dealerships sell used bikes you can get with warranties, plenty around the place. Whether you're going to get a Suzuki SV650 or an MT-07 or a Trident 660 Trident, anything like that, they're all brilliant bikes, all priced really well. But the Suzuki, I've just seen these things so reasonably priced. I bought this bike with 1,800 miles on it, fully serviced, everything included, for $39.50. Now, that was a really good deal. I'm not expecting everyone to have a deal like that, because I think I got quite fortunate with it. It has a couple scuffs on it where I believe someone dropped it. It had bar damage on the clip-ons, but again, they've been changed. And if you're looking at modifying your bike as well, a very modifiable bike. But you can definitely pick like a 2020, a 5-year-old bike with no miles on it. I found so many for around £4,000 to £4,500. Now, again, that's UK prices. I don't know what it's like across Europe or in America. The price varies so much, especially from the US to the UK. But low seat, great power, brilliant engine. That V-twin engine, superb. Price point, extremely reasonable. Longevity, yes. Servicing, cheap. Looks, in my opinion, that's subjective. Looks great. Easy to ride, lovely. Bad news, seat's a bit shit, and you might outgrow it.